Is the low-carb beer in your fridge actually low-carb? What if I told you that some of the most popular low-carb beers in Australian bottle shops contain almost as many carbs as regular beer, while charging you 20 to 30% more for the privilege? These are the beers marketed as guilt-free choices. These are the beers you reach for when you are trying to cut carbs or lose weight. Except the numbers do not add up. I spent weeks analyzing nutritional panels, comparing carbohydrate content across brands, and researching brewing processes. What I discovered will change how you see that low-carb six-pack. Some brands stretch the definition of low-carb to its absolute limit. Others use marketing tricks to make you think you are drinking something healthier when you are barely saving any carbs at all. The most frustrating part is the price premium. You are paying more for beers that deliver minimal actual benefit. Let me take you through the worst offenders, and then I will show you which beers actually deliver on their low-carb promises. Number 1. Hahn Super Dry 3.5. This one frustrates people because Hahn markets Super Dry 3.5 as reduced carb, positioned right next to actual low-carb beers. The 3.5 refers to carbs per 100 milliliters, which sounds low until you do the math. A standard 375 milliliter bottle contains 13.1 grams of carbohydrates. Regular full-strength beer averages 10 to 14 grams per bottle. You are saving maybe 1 to 3 grams while paying a premium price. Genuine low-carb beers contain 2 to 3 grams per bottle. At 13.1 grams per bottle, this is barely reduced at all. The alcohol content is 4.6%, near full strength. Consumer reviews describe this as misleading marketing. One reviewer wrote they drank this thinking it was genuinely low-carb, only to discover months later they had been drinking essentially regular beer at premium prices. The nutrition panel lists serving size as 100 milliliters, not the full bottle, forcing you to do mental math. Most people see 3.5 and assume that is total carbs. It is not. Hahn Super Dry 3.5 typically costs $5 to $6 more per case than regular Hahn Super Dry, despite nearly identical carbohydrate levels. When you buy this thinking you are making a low-carb choice, you are consuming 13.1 grams of carbs per bottle and paying premium prices for clever marketing. Number 2. Pure Blonde Ultra Low Carb. Pure Blonde positions itself as Australia's original low-carb beer, launched in 2004, specifically targeting health-conscious drinkers. The ultra low-carb variant promises even fewer carbs. The numbers show 2.7 grams of carbohydrates per 375 milliliter bottle, genuinely low compared to regular beer. The problem is not the carbs. The problem is the alcohol content, just 2.5% alcohol. Regular beer sits around 4.5 to 5%. Mid-strength beer is typically 3.5%. At 2.5%, this is barely stronger than light beer, which ranges from 2.0 to 2.9%. You're essentially drinking expensive light beer marketed as low-carb premium. The taste reflects this compromise. Consumer reviews describe it as watery with minimal flavor. One reviewer on Dan Murphy's called it beer-flavored water, the most disappointing purchase they'd made. Another said you would need 3 of these to equal 1 regular beer, defeating the entire purpose. The brewing process uses extended fermentation to reduce carbs. But to keep alcohol low while achieving low carbs, they use less malt overall. Less malt means less flavor, less body, less satisfaction. This is the fundamental problem with trying to achieve ultra-low carbs while keeping alcohol minimal, less malt. Pure Blonde. Ultra-low carb costs approximately $50 to $55 per case versus $45 to $50 for regular beer. You are paying more to drink what is essentially light beer. The brand is owned by Carlton and United Breweries, which is owned by Asahi Group Holdings, a Japanese conglomerate. Your Australian low-carb beer is foreign-owned, with profits extracted to Japan. When you buy Pure Blonde Ultra Low Carb, you are drinking 2.5% alcohol light beer at premium prices. Number 3. Burley Brewing Big Head No Carb Beer. This one hurts because Burley Brewing is an Australian craft brewery with a strong reputation on the Gold Coast. The Big Head brand promises 0 carbs, sounding like the ultimate solution for carb-conscious drinkers. But here is the problem with 0 carb beer. To achieve zero carbohydrates, brewers must ferment out absolutely all sugars from the wort using extended fermentation and specific yeast strains that consume every last bit of fermentable sugar. The result is zero carbs, but also zero residual sweetness, zero body, and a bone-dry finish many drinkers find unpleasant. Burley Big Head contains 0.05 grams of carbohydrates per 100 milliliters, rounding to zero on the nutrition panel. Alcohol content is 4.2%, respectable for a low-carb beer. The problem is taste. Consumer reviews describe it as aggressively dry with a harsh finish. One reviewer on Untappd called it beer mixed with soda water, saying the flavor was thin and unbalanced. Another said the zero-carb achievement came at the cost of drinkability, a technical success, but a flavor failure. The brewing process strips away everything that makes beer enjoyable. Traditional beer has residual sweetness from unfermented malt sugars that balance hop bitterness and provide mouthfeel. Zero-carb beer eliminates this entirely, leaving alcohol, bitterness, and carbonation with nothing to balance them. Burley Big Head retails for $55 to $60 per case, a significant premium over both regular beer and other low-carb options that have 2 to 3 grams and actually taste like beer. The question becomes whether saving those last 2 to 3 grams of carbohydrates is worth the massive compromise in flavor and drinkability. For most people, the answer is no. When you buy Burley Big Head No Carb expecting satisfaction, you are drinking something technically impressive but flavor compromised that costs more and tastes worse than beers with minimal carbs. Number 4. Tooheys Extra Dry Platinum. Tooheys markets this as a premium reduced carb lager. The platinum branding suggests quality, but the nutrition panel shows 8.9 grams of carbohydrates per 375 milliliter bottle. Genuine low-carb beers contain 2 to 3 grams of carbohydrates per bottle. At 8.9 grams, it contains nearly triple the carbohydrates while positioning itself in the same category. Alcohol is 4.5%, standard full strength. Tooheys is owned by Lion, which is in turn owned by Kirin Holdings, a Japanese brewing conglomerate. Consumer reviews describe Tooheys Extra Dry Platinum as indistinguishable from regular Tooheys Extra Dry. One reviewer conducted a blind taste test and could not tell the difference. Another said the platinum branding justifies a $6 to $8 per case increase for minimal actual difference. The carb reduction from slightly extended fermentation is not enough to reach genuine low-carb levels. This beer exists in no man's land between regular beer and actual low-carb options. When you buy Tooheys Extra Dry Platinum, you are consuming 8.9 grams of carbohydrates per 375 milliliter bottle and paying platinum prices for what reviewers cannot distinguish from regular Tooheys. So what should you actually buy? First, Cooper's Dry. Cooper's Dry is a genuine Australian-owned low-carb option. Cooper's remains family-owned in South Australia since 1862, and it is one of the last major Australian-owned breweries. Cooper's Dry contains 3.8 grams of carbohydrates per 375 milliliter bottle. That is genuinely low compared to regular beer, which is 10 to 14 grams. Alcohol is 3.5%, which makes it a mid-strength option. You are getting reasonable alcohol with significantly reduced carbs. The taste is clean and crisp, with Cooper's characteristic yeasty character. It is not trying to be zero carb, so it retains enough residual sweetness and body to be enjoyable. Consumer reviews rate it positively for delivering on its low-carb promise while maintaining drinkability. Available at Woolworths, Coles, Dan Murphy's, BWS, and independent bottle shops. Pricing is typically $48 to $52 per case. When you buy Cooper's Dry, you are supporting Australian family ownership, and you are consuming 3.8 grams of carbohydrates per bottle. Second, Pure Blonde Premium Low Carb. Different from Pure Blonde Ultra Low Carb. The regular Premium Low Carb contains 3.5 grams of carbohydrates per 375 milliliter bottle. Alcohol is 4.2%, respectably close to full strength. This is where Pure Blonde delivers. At 3.5 grams of carbs, you are getting a genuine reduction, and at 4.2% alcohol, you are getting enough strength to feel like real beer. Consumer reviews for Premium Low Carb are significantly better than Ultra Low Carb. Available at all major retailers, pricing approximately $50 to $55 per case. When you buy Pure Blonde Premium Low Carb, make absolutely certain you are getting the premium version at 4.2% alcohol and 3.5 grams of carbs, not the ultra low carb at 2.5% alcohol. Third, Hahn Premium Light. This might seem contradictory after criticizing Hahn Super Dry 3.5, but Hahn Premium Light is different. It contains 2.4 grams of carbohydrates per 375 milliliter bottle, genuinely low carb. Alcohol is 2.3%, clearly positioning this as light beer, not a low carb alternative to full strength. The crucial difference is honesty. It is marketed as light beer that happens to be low carb, so your expectations are set correctly. Consumer reviews reflect this understanding. It is widely available, typically $45 to $48 per case. When you buy Hahn Premium Light, you are getting genuinely low carb at 2.4 grams per bottle with the understanding you are drinking light beer. How to identify genuine low carb beer? First, check carbs per bottle, not per 100 milliliters. Marketing displays carbs per 100 milliliters to make numbers look smaller. The standard serving in Australia is 375 milliliters. Calculate the total carbs per bottle. Genuine low carb contains 2 to 4 grams per 375 milliliter bottle. Anything above 5 grams is borderline. Above 7 grams is barely reduced. Second, check alcohol content. Low carb beers fall into two categories. Light beers at 2.0 to 2.9% alcohol typically have 2 to 3 grams of carbs, or mid-strength to near full-strength beers at 3.5 to 4.5% alcohol typically have 3 to 4 grams of carbs. Third, understand the trade-off. You cannot have full-strength alcohol, full-flavor beer, and ultra-low carbs simultaneously. Brewing is chemistry. Reducing carbs means either reducing alcohol or accepting a drier flavor profile. Fourth, compare price to benefit. Low carb should cost similar to or slightly more than regular beer. If you are paying a 30% premium for 3 grams of carb savings, the value proposition does not make sense. Fifth, read actual reviews on Dan Murphy's, Untapped, and beer forums before committing to a case. Here is the bottom line. The Australian low-carb beer market is full of misleading marketing and confusing labeling. Hahn Super Dry 3.5 contains 13.1 grams of carbs per bottle, essentially regular beer with clever per 100 milliliter labeling. Pure Blonde Ultra Low Carb is technically low carb at 2.7 grams, but it is a 2.5% alcohol light beer sold at premium prices. Burley Big Head achieves 0 grams of carbs, but it tastes aggressively dry and unbalanced. Tooheys Extra Dry Platinum contains 8.9 grams of carbs, regular beer with platinum branding. Most of these brands are owned by foreign multinationals, extracting profits from Australian beer culture, while delivering minimal actual health benefits. Genuine low-carb options do exist. Cooper's Dry is 3.8 grams and 3.5% alcohol, and it remains Australian family-owned. Pure Blonde Premium Low Carb is 3.5 grams and 4.2% alcohol, not the ultra version. Hahn Premium Light is 2.4 grams and 2.3% alcohol, and it is honestly positioned as a light beer. You deserve to know what you are actually drinking. Next time you reach for low-carb beer, check carbs per bottle, not per 100 milliliters. Check alcohol content. Check who owns the brand. Ask yourself if the premium price delivers genuine value or just clever marketing. If this video helped you understand what is really in Australian low-carb beers, hit the like button and share it with everyone at your next barbecue. Subscribe so you do not miss our next investigation. Ring that notification bell.